Hey folks, today I want to share with you 5 things that you can do to dramatically improve your productivity. And it's not unheard of for people to double, even triple their productivity based on these simple things. Now, here's the cool thing about it. None of these 5 things cost you a lot of money. In fact, the vast majority of them cost you nothing. One of these elements might cost you a couple of bucks. So let's just jump into why productivity is so important, because it's probably the number one thing that we're challenged with here as business professionals. In fact, they've been talking about it in the news and reports, in studies, primarily in the US, in Canada, talking about how the productivity per employee has dropped significantly. Now, we have a number of theories behind this, but we're going to save that for another day here. Today, I'm going to be talking about what can you do to improve your productivity. Why is it so important to improve your productivity? It's important because at the end of the day, every single person wants to feel like they're productive. I want to go home at the end of the day, if I'm not working from the office, the home office in particular, because I'm at home. But if I'm out and about, I want to come home and I want to make sure that I come home feeling productive, like I gave it everything I had, and those, whatever it is, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours, for some people it's 10 hours, that they were extremely productive and I got the things done that I needed to get done. No one wants to feel like they're unproductive. In fact, it's one of the worst feelings in the world to put in an 8-hour workday or a 10-hour workday and feel unproductive. This is what causes a lot of people to get demotivated. This is what causes people to get burned out, in fact. It's not always the 10 hours of work or working long hours. It's not feeling like you are actually making progress and being productive. And being productive, let's just, throw it out there. Who wants to work 8 hours when you can actually get 8 hours of work done within 5 hours? So why drag on the work when you don't have to? This is where the true freedom aspect comes in, is if you can condense your 8-hour workday into 4 hours or 5 hours or even less, then why not do it? And these 5 things will help you do that. So the first thing is goals. That's not going to cost you a single thing. And the reason why goals are so important, if you understand this part, it can be extremely powerful. When it comes to performance, when it comes to productivity, one of the key elements is attention and focus. And what we are doing as human beings is we are actually diverting our attention that should be put on the task to other areas of our life, and our attention is being pulled away from us. We call them hijackers, we call them distractions, but the average person, their level of distraction is anywhere from 35 to 50% of the day. We get distracted. Now, what does that mean? That means that instead of spending the 5 minutes on the thing that we should have done, we get distracted by other things. Perhaps it's notifications. It could be Teams notifications. It could be an email pop-up. It could be, hey, maybe I should just check my Instagram. The important thing with goals is this. Your brain is a goal-driven organ. Every single person's brain is a goal-driven organ. And by giving it a goal, we lock onto that goal. Our brain automatically locks on and provides us relevant information to achieve that task and be motivated and driven to achieve that goal. So if we don't give ourselves a goal, it's also known as an objective or an outcome, because sometimes people don't like to use the word goal. Well, then our brain actually ties or gets attached to goals from other people, other things, other people's priorities, or it gets distracted very easily. So if we can pull our attention back by simply having goals, that is going to help us be dramatically more productive. I could talk a lot about goals and the importance of goals. I can talk about that all day long because there's so many studies that have been done. We've done studies. I've done even studies on myself in terms of my own performance. And I can tell you that when I didn't, for 6 months I did this. This was a really cool thing that I did. For 6 months, I didn't do anything with goals. And when I actually tracked my progress and being a professional in this space, I saw that my productivity dropped by about 50 to 60% over the course of 6 months. That is huge. So I've tested this. We've tested this with our clients and participants. Goal setting is absolutely critical, and every single person should be doing that on a daily basis. And we should be setting outcomes for all of the activities that we're doing throughout the day. So if we're going into a meeting, what's the goal, objective, or outcome that we want to have? Because then our mind is going to lock onto that and be focused on that. So that is the first thing, and that doesn't cost you a penny. The second thing, it's a very, very simple tool. It's one of the most powerful tools out there, and it is so, I'm going to say underwhelming, but so powerful that will help you be more productive, and that is simply a checklist. Checklists are extremely powerful because they remind you of what you are supposed to do, And they also enable you, this is one of the most important parts, is to set priorities, because your most important outcomes that you want to achieve should be at the top of your checklist, not at the bottom. So you want to not only write down the outcomes that you want. Outcomes are different than action items because many of us have action items, many of us have things to do, but they don't necessarily lead or to the outcomes that we want. We need to be focusing on the outcomes that we want and putting them on a checklist in priority from most important to least important. And we need to keep that checklist in front of us all of the time. So if you're walking around, if you're going to meetings, if you're traveling, whatever it might be, you got to take that checklist with you, whether it's a physical checklist or a digital checklist. I have a digital note taker. I take that around everywhere with me because I can check off my tasks. It's synchronized with my computer, and I can just check it off on the actual physical tablet itself. So checklists are a must-have. And part of this is being disciplined and using checklists, because if you are disciplined, you are actually going to get the job done and be more productive. The third element is right here. I have it right on my desk here, and they are simply these. This is what's going to cost you a couple of bucks. They are sticky notes, probably one of the best inventions out there, because sticky notes keep you on track. So when I'm doing things, when I'm working on something and I have a focus block, which is another key element, what I do then is I put up the outcome or the objective onto this sticky note, and I throw it up that's in a place where it's going to capture my attention and keep my attention. So when my brain starts to drift, I am brought back into what I should be doing. And this happens to all of us, right? I have urges sometimes too to go on the internet and scope out a few things. Something pops into my mind and say, oh yeah, let me check that out. Let me do some research. But I have to remind myself, no, in this particular time, here's the outcome. And that's the power of sticky notes. So have sticky notes with you, especially when you are at your desk. Okay, that's very, very important. It's a key element to bringing your attention back into what you should be doing. Now, the fourth element is really interesting as well. And this is something that, a lot of people say, well, it's not going to really help you be more productive, but it absolutely does. And that is breathing. Breathing is so critical because one of the key aspects of performance is energy. And if you've done biology, basic biology courses, you know that one of the key elements to producing energy is oxygen. And the vast majority of us are not taking in enough oxygen to optimize our performance and productivity. So we have typically shallow breaths rather than deeper breaths. So I will do deep breathing when I want to be more energetic. That's absolutely critical for me and enables me to have more energy, because performance and productivity comes from a number of different things. It comes from having the right focus and attention. It comes from having a higher level of energy, because if you have low energy, you're going to be less productive, bottom line. So when it comes to energy, there's so many other things that come into play here. And those are the typical things that people talk about. Proper nutrition, exercise, sleep, those are things. I'm not going to talk about that, but what you do have control over throughout the day is your breathing. So every time you catch yourself doing shallow breaths, take deeper breaths. And there's different breathing techniques that you can actually do to increase your arousal levels. And what that means is if you increase your sympathetic nervous system, you're going to be more alert. You're going to be more aware, which is going to enable you to also be more productive as well. So breathing kind of goes both ways, depending on the technique you use. So you can actually use breathing to reduce your arousal level and get you in a more calm state, or you can actually use breathing to get you more aroused and be in a more energetic state. So that's another powerful element to productivity. Then there's the fifth element, which I think is extremely, extremely important. Every single person should do this. And I would show you if I didn't have confidential information on my calendar, but it is focus blocks. Focus blocks are absolutely important. Now, if you're a busy executive, you're a busy business owner, you definitely need to have a minimum of half-hour focus blocks. It's critical. And those are blocks that are blocked out. If you even have one a day, that's going to enable you to be that much more productive. I have focus blocks that go anywhere from 90 minutes to 2.5 hours or 3 hours. Because in that 3-hour block, that 90-minute block, I am being as optimal as I can when it comes to being productive. And I can get, let's just say, 5 hours of work done, 6 hours of work done in that 2 hour block, in that 90-minute block. It's extremely powerful, especially if you can get into what we call the zone state. I'll talk about that in a future episode where I'll share with you the key elements to actually getting yourself into a state where you're in optimal performance and things just come to you automatically. You're able to be in extreme state of creativity or just be so, I'm going to say, accurately focused on the task at hand that you're able to do things that you normally would not be able to do. That's what we call the zone. But focus blocks are critical. And that is a must have for every single professional out there who is looking to improve their productivity. If you don't have focus blocks, you're not going to be as productive. Okay, we've done the studies, we've done the research. I do this all the time. I take a look at my days, and those days that I do not have focus blocks, my productivity level does drop. And sometimes it can drop significantly. So focus blocks are these uninterrupted blocks that you put into your calendar and you protect with your life. Right? You do not get rid of these focus blocks. And in those focus blocks, you're disciplined. You are focusing on the task at hand. And you are not allowing yourself to get distracted either by external things or the external environment or even the internal environment that you have, because we all have urges. Our mind starts to drift and we always need to bring it back here. So those are the 5 different things that you can do to be extremely productive. They are the 5 top things I always recommend to people. And they cost you virtually nothing. So the first one is goal setting. The second is checklist. The third one is sticky notes, breathing. And then the 5th one is focus blocks. Now I'm going to give you a bonus one here as well, because this is absolutely in your control. And it's not only to have a higher level of productivity, but it's also to have a better, you can say, quality of life. And that is optimism. So when we took a look at all of our participants in our studies and in our clients, what we've noticed is those people that are more productive over the long term and have a higher quality of life and are more successful. And so when we're talking about success, we're talking about a number of different measurements. We're talking about, yes, monetary. We're talking about feeling fulfilled. We're talking about health, better relationships. Here is one of the most important, if not the most important, character trait, or you can say mindset trait that you can use, or that was consistent with these successful people, and that is optimism. And that absolutely impacts a person's level of productivity. You can see this. People that are low in optimism, that aren't as optimistic either performing the task or throughout the day, aren't as productive. Now, you might be productive doing typical administrative work, which is requiring not very much creativity, and it's just, hey, let me just print out this report or click in numbers or whatever that is. We're talking about monotonous tasks. You don't have to be super optimistic for that. But if you're a knowledge worker that relies on creativity, that relies on problem solving, and different aspects of using your brain and your cognitive power, optimism is absolutely critical. We know that people with less optimism, that may even fall into the borderline of being negative, let's just say, or a disempowering mindset, aren't as creative, aren't as productive, and they also don't have as strong as relationships or feel as good about their lives and themselves as people who are optimistic. This is something you can absolutely control within yourself. And so what are the things that you are looking forward to in your day? What are the things that you are looking forward to when it comes to yourself, your internal being? This part is really interesting because if you can focus on yourself, your internal state of optimism, rather than looking at your external state, you're always going to have a high level of optimism. It's really, really powerful. A lot of people may look at you like you're crazy because things are going to be chaotic around you and you're still going to be optimistic. They're going to say, you're just nuts, you're living in the clouds. But no, you're being a realist, but you're being an optimistic realist. And that is extremely powerful when it comes to productivity. So if you want to boost your productivity, if you want to even double, triple, we've seen people quadruple their level of productivity and improve their quality of life. Those are the 5 things that you can do, plus the bonus. So let me just simply repeat and summarize them for you. First one is goals. You absolutely need to do that because your brain is goal-driven organ. Secondly, checklist. Very powerful, simple tool that can enable you to be focused on task and get the things done that you need to do. Sticky notes is another one. Extremely powerful, one of the best inventions out there. 4th, breathing. Deep breathing or you can say shallow breathing if you want to arouse yourself even more. There's different ways of breathing. You can look them up. That can help you significantly to boost your energy and boost your productivity. And focus blocks, as I mentioned before. Focus blocks, I would say, are absolutely critical. And then the bonus one is optimism. If you focus on those 5 plus that one bonus one, optimism, watch your productivity levels skyrocket through the roof. It's absolutely, I'm going to say, breathtaking when people realize what they're capable of. So hopefully that adds value to you. And I'd love to hear your feedback in terms of what you've been able to implement and how that's been able to boost your level of productivity.